Welcome to War Room Impeachment. We like that intro so much that we're going to do it twice. Got a little feedback, so hopefully it's coming across great on the John Fredericks Radio Network, the Salem Radio Network, America's Voice.News, and now on Newsmax TV, the fastest growing cable operation in the country, 70 million homes passed. Chris Ruddy and the team want to welcome episode 56. Got Raheem Kassam, the Nigel Farage's wingman. He was ran the war room for Brexit, was a former managing editor of Breitbart London. A lot going on in London today. We're going to get to Raheem in a second. Jason Miller's on assignment, ran the war room for the senior communication strategist for the 2016 campaign. And honored to have in the room Congressman Dan Muser from Pennsylvania 9. This is the Keystone State is central to President Trump's victory. It'll be central in 2020. And also John Moran from Moran Logistics. You may know John. John is on the head of the construction committee for We Build the Wall. We've had just amazing news overnight. Tommy Fisher has been awarded a $400 million contract. Tommy Fisher, the partner of We Build the Wall, has been awarded a $400 million contract to build new wall in the Yuma sector. And of course, we're under construction with beginning construction, which we'll announce over the weekend more formally, of wall actually on the river in the Rio Grande down in Texas.
Steve, so we have hundreds of thousands of listeners, and some of them wouldn't have come across We Build the Wall. Just summarize what
We Build the Wall is the private is Brian Kolfage, the most wounded hero in American Air Force history, and Brian started this effort coming up on a year ago, December 17th of 2018. We've raised about $25 million. We built the prototype, I think the best wall that's been built in El Paso, Texas, under the leadership of our head of construction, John Moran. Built in the department, DHS, and the Border Patrol said this is a prototype wall. We love it. And Tommy Fisher, our construction guy, that came in under time and under cost, and we built it over a weekend, Memorial Day in 2018. It was insane. But I want to get today. We're going to talk more about that in the coming days and weeks. It's really proud, John, to have you here. And the reason we want to have the guys from Pennsylvania is the heartland of this country. Pennsylvania is the center of the Trump revolt. Dan is a congressman who replaced Lou Barletta, basically is redistricted, but Barletta was the very first congressman really to come out and support President Trump, elected official. You sit in what we consider a historic seat for the MAGA movement, so I want to welcome you today to come, and I know you've been...
It is, appreciate it. It's a great district.
Well, you
lose a heck of a person to succeed.
Yeah, and you're one of the heroes of this movement. It's one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the day before the fiasco begins in the Judiciary Committee. But I want to start, Raheem, really with, it's a tale of two presidencies this morning. President Trump, and we've said, we're going to get to the Minority Report that came out last night, because the Minority Report, I think, argues a set of facts that plays into what's happening today on the world stage. You have a tale of two presidencies. One, he's being actually eviscerated by the Democratic mainstream media. Today Show, Morning Joe. Morning Joe called him a clown today. And at the same time, he's in London next to the General Secretary of the United Nations, of the NATO, talking about how finally the NATO nations are pitching in on the overall $2.5 billion fund that runs NATO overall. The United States is now down to, I think, 17 or 18%, along with Germany and France and others. So we finally got some even, although it's a small number, it's symbolic. And then overall, the 2%. Stoltenberg said if it hadn't been for Trump, we wouldn't have had these nations. So what does the split screen presidency today mean to you?
Well, that's exactly what's happening, Steve. Jens Stoltenberg, the Secretary General of NATO, saying this morning that this renewed interest in NATO, this renewed passion about NATO, this renewed fairness in NATO's spending commitments from its constituent member countries is because President Trump basically gave him a lot of tough love in 2015, 2016, and in the last 2 years also. And you've seen this flip now where President Emmanuel Macron of France is the one saying, oh, NATO's brain dead, we don't want to have to do it. And President Trump's up there today saying, well, actually, now it's a fairer union, now it's a fairer alliance. This is actually something that we can be a part of, and it's insulting for Macron now to come out and start hurling insults at it. And that goes back to the idea that the European Union has had for a long time, and this is where a lot of the Ukraine stuff, which ties into impeachment, comes across. The European Union for some time has wanted its own army. They didn't want to pay into an alliance with America.
It hasn't won its own army. The guys in Brussels and people like Macron wanted the EU to have its own army, although they wouldn't do the 2% on their own forces, even to get. And a lot of that money did not go into operations, readiness, maneuvering, equipment, the stuff you need to actually fight.
But really, they've been in hoc to Iran for a long time. The European Union has. We've seen them work with Iran for a long time and still trying to resurrect and give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to the Iran deal. And they've also been working hand-in-hand with China for so very long also. And so you see why preternaturally people like Macron would be against NATO. And you're seeing that playing out in London today.
You see, this gets down to the central beating heart of what this investigation, this inquiry is that in the Republican Minority Report, I couldn't be prouder of Devin Nunes and the team of what they went and argued. They said at the end of the day, this is going to be a policy dispute between a group of unelected bureaucrats. Although patriotic and as some have shown heroism in combat, they have a certain way. They think like the party of Davos. They think like Brussels, and this is a disagreement. The President of the United States is duly elected. He was duly elected in November of 2016. He is the commander-in-chief. He was elected on this reversal of America decline, of managed decline, and he has a policy that is America first, and America first has a different set of priorities than the permanent political class. And it just so happens, there's no coincidences, he's in London today laying it out on the world stage, that the United States, we are part of the alliance. It's Donald Trump that's made the alliance stronger by forcing the hesitant bureaucratic politicians in Europe to actually step up and start to defend their own people. Congressman, I want to just go to you for a second. How is there, President Trump said a couple of weeks ago, unity and substance in arguing his case about this impeachment, about the unity of the Republican Party. You come from, one of the key districts in the country representing the Trump movement. Do you see a new unity in the Republican Party in backing Trump?
Absolutely. I see it on the House floor. I see it in our caucus. I see it in our conference meetings. And I certainly see it in the people throughout the 9th Congressional. People look at this. You've got to want the president to have any guilt because it doesn't add up, right? I mean, you got to push for it, and that's what the left side is doing. We began this thing with a process there was no due process, complete presumption of guilt. 5 members of the Intelligence Committee were already signed on to impeachment, 13, by the way, on the Judiciary Committee. And then look at the players involved here. I mean, not just the Schiff and making it the Schiff show, but let's just move right on down the line. Burisma. I mean, the CEO of Burisma right now, his whereabouts are unknown. I mean, the man is an international arch criminal, and the Vice President of the United States thought it was great that his son got a job by him.
To this point, Raheem, didn't Zelensky the other day, or one of his prosecutors, say we got to go back and really investigate Burisma from years ago, start at the beginning, go all the way through the thing? I mean, your point is that it's a shady operation. We got to get to the bottom of it.
The process is ridiculous. The players are unbelievably suspect, right down to the witnesses. And then let's talk about a little thing called evidence. Where is it? The so-called this for that, the quid pro quo. Simply does not exist, and they're making it up. They're really great at interchanging the word corruption with the Bidens.
Do people in Pennsylvania want their president to look at every dollar that goes overseas, whether it's military assistance or foreign aid, to make sure that's not going into some cesspool?
Yeah. They know the president is doing his job as per a 2014 law that we must, the Secretary of Defense should root out corruption before selling any missiles of defense. The people of the 9th and Pennsylvania aren't buying into the media, which includes morning jerk or morning joke. This week with George Propagandinopoulos.
You're Trump. We got to take on this. No, we're going to come back. God, you're going to co-host this show. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. You're on War Room Impeachment, episode 56, John Frederick Radio Network, Salem Radio Network. We're on, by the way, warroom.org. You got to go to the website. The website's on fire. Also, americasvoice.news and Newsmax TV. We can take a short commercial break. Return with Congressman Muser and John Moran in a moment.
War Room Impeachment. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment, 3 December, the year of our Lord 2019, episode 56, the historic Breitbart Embassy on the John Fredericks Radio Network, the Salem Radio Network nationwide, America's Voice.news all throughout the country and overseas, and now Newsmax TV, the fastest growing cable news operation in the country. Chris Roy, the guy, is now passing 70 million homes. Proud to be a member of the family. Congressman Dan Muser from Pennsylvania 9, the old Barletta seat.
Honored to be in the Bannon War Room, Steve.
I got to tell you, you may be the co-host here in a couple weeks. So this is the morning. I
Thank
love that.
goodness.
And John. Yeah, let's not take a vote at the staff. And John Moran, the head of Moran Logistics and the chairman of the construction committee for We Build the Wall. Let's go back to London.
Great to be here, Steve.
Let's go back to London.
Yep.
It's a split-screen presidency. This is what the American people, this is what the good folks in Pennsylvania hired Donald Trump to do, right? To be over there and to help revitalize, re-energize the NATO alliance. He told Macron today, it's not brain dead. He said, you know, Erdogan and all these other guys were jumping on you when you said it. Why is the split-screen presidency so powerful for what the president's trying to do going forward?
Well, this goes back to what what advice Bill Clinton actually gave to President Trump a couple of weeks ago,
Amen.
which we played on this show, which is, hey, you can jump in. Clinton said, I didn't jump in during my impeachment, but Trump will jump in. But hey, the business of government is the business of government, and that's what the president is elected to do. And look at him out there doing it. He's not just going over there for a NATO summit. He's not just talking about the $130 billion that is being raised now on the back of Donald Trump's assertions about how NATO member countries haven't been paying their fair share.
This is individual countries paying more for their for their defense,
Paying more for their self-defense.
and the collective defense.
Alleviating the burden from U.S. taxpayers, but also keeping the United States an integral part, a foundational part of all of this. It's the best of both worlds. You would think if CNN, which we have on the television behind us right now, if they had their heads on their shoulders, they would be lauding this deal.
So why are they not, Congressman? Why are they not?
You know, the Secretary General came into a joint session of Congress and lauded the president.
The
thanked
Secretary
the president
General of NATO,
of
Stoltenberg.
NATO.
Right.
Came in and praised the president, thanked the president for securing NATO, for making it stronger, and for other countries to pay their share. So Europe benefits mostly by this. So Macron is I don't know actually what he's doing. He's got a bad hand, and he seems to be playing it badly already. And thankfully, we got a president that's not going to stand for it.
Got a quote from Jens Stoltenberg from this morning. He says, quote, "We're making real progress, most importantly on the burden sharing, and your leadership, President Trump, on defense spending is having an impact." And that is directly in the press conference with President Trump. And that's from the NATO leader. How can Emmanuel Macron, how can all these guys stand up there and say, you know, we have a different vision for the world. This is what's coming together, and coming together rather quickly and well.
I want both of you guys to jump in here. I want to start with the Congressman first. The Minority Report. And here's what I liked what the Republicans did. The Minority Report came out last night. We still haven't seen, I don't know, the War Room, the team over here at the Rapid Response working. I don't think we've still seen the the Majority Report, which is really, quote unquote, their evidence to go forward. But finally, the Republicans are on offense. They're leaning into this. As you sat there, Congressman, and saw the testimony over the last couple of weeks, what lessons did you take from that?
Well, one that comes to mind, that springs to mind, is Congressman Mike Turner's questioning of Sondlander, when Ambassador Sondland, when Adam Schiff scurried out into the hallway and was on CNN speaking about how the president was just implicated by the ambassador. And then Mike Turner went through the questions. Did you implicate the president? No. Did you say that the president committed an impeachable offense? No. Did you hear the president mention of this for that, a quid pro quo? No. What did you base this upon? I assumed. I mean, who wouldn't assume?
Presumptions and assumptions.
Right. Who wouldn't assume when you have one of the most corrupt countries in the world, and then you have the most glaring examples, what the president brought up. We have the vice president of the United States, his son works for a internationally known arch criminal, that whereabouts unknown at Burisma. Why wouldn't the president bring that up? He brought it up as an example of the type of corruption that existed. He wanted to root out corruption. And
he didn't want. What he doesn't want to do is export. This is the Guardian newspaper, which is not Breitbart or Daily Caller or the Tucker Carlson show. The Guardian says it's the most corrupt nation in Europe. Ernst & Young says it's the number 3 most corrupt nation on earth. What Trump is making a point when he goes to the thing, as the vice president, we have a duty not to export American crony capitalism into an already corrupt situation.
Absolutely.
I know, look, one of the reasons you like Trump, you're a businessman, you've always liked the way he works as a businessman. For the hearings, when you were listening to him and everything you saw from him,
Right.
Because you're an even-handed guy. If you're what I like about you is if you see something that's wrong, you're up in somebody's grill.
Right.
Right. You're a partisan, but you're not an ideologue. What did you take away from the hearings?
Well, the biggest thing that struck me was that the bureaucracy in this country, that it was so blatant that it was on display for all of America to see. Finally, I mean, when you have people talking about, I'm concerned because the president went off the interagency script during this conversation.
The interagency consensus.
Right.
I didn't see that in the Constitution.
No.
Where the interagency consensus is senior to the commander-in-chief?
If you think about it, it was a real act of insubordination, even to
You think it's that high? You think it raises that level?
Oh, I absolutely do. I mean, when you're a military officer and you don't recognize that the commander in chief has sway on his ability to negotiate with a foreign entity. And then you have a concern because, once again, it's not the script that was
that the unelected bureaucrats thought should be the direction
exactly,
the country should go.
Exactly. So I think if anything came out of it, I think the American people have seen firsthand that the extent of the unelected bureaucrats' power in this country.
How's that going to play with people in Pennsylvania? Look, the great thing about Pennsylvania, it's the heartland of this country. That's where I think we're all so proud that President Trump took Pennsylvania, took Michigan, took Wisconsin, took Iowa, took Ohio. This is the beating heart of the country, right? This is the manufacturing base of the country. When people see that, even-handed folks in Pennsylvania, because they're very fair people, when they see, to John's point, this interagency consensus, the way these elected bureaucrats kind of sit there arrogantly think that they have a foreign policy that's supposed to be what they want to do versus what the elected president, whether it's Bernie Sanders or AOC or Donald Trump, what the president of the United States says, hey, this is the direction we're taking the country.
And in Pennsylvania, it's mostly Democrats as well that aren't buying into this and are stating that.
Why are they not?
There's no evidence.
Why do you think they're not?
Well, first of all, the main player, Adam Schiff, I mean, he's got a record of being untruthful, i.e. lying, and this has been going on, by the way, for the last 3 years, as we all know.
That's a pretty big show. You're a member of Congress. You think Adam Schiff's a liar?
Well, he clearly is, and I try to say it in the nicest way possible. He has a record of not telling the truth. However, look at the evidence. Look at what he said about the Mueller report, that he had more than circumstantial evidence. Look at the parody that he put upon the American people. Look at the fact that he said he didn't know who the whistleblower was, yet his staff met with them.
Do you think he ought to be forced to testify?
I think that would be, of course, we should be able
Absolutely.
to call our
You think so?
witnesses.
Do you agree? We're going to take a commercial break here in a second, but before I go, do you believe, start with you and then do you, that the president's right in not participating tomorrow in the beginning of the kickoff of the constitutional lawyers? You think it's smart?
I think they're trying to continue their kangaroo court. I think they're abusing power. I think they're not allowing the president to call witnesses. They said they could call one, but it needed to be approved. It's very vague. There's no procedure. There's no process. And what they gave him 3 days to prepare, basically, while the president was on an important trip with NATO.
Okay,
Yeah, it'd be a credible mistake
you
to
think
even show
so?
up there.
You think
Sure,
so? Okay,
absolutely.
don't validate. Okay, this is War Room Impeachment, episode 56. We're live throughout the nation right now. We're going to take a short commercial break. We're going to return with John Moran and Congressman Muser in just a moment.
War Room Impeachment with Stephen K. Bannon, Jason Miller, and Raheem Kassam. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment, episode 56, 3 December, year of our Lord 2019, Breitbart Embassy on the John Fredericks Radio Network, the Salem Broadcast Radio Network, America's Voice.News, and Newsmax TV. Chris Ruddy's great operation, fastest growing news operation in the country on 70 million homes, joined by Congressman Dan Muser from Pennsylvania 9, the old Barletta seat, and John Moran one of the top great industrialists in this country from Pennsylvania, and the chairman of the construction committee of Rebuild the Wall, which Tommy Fisher, our partner, just got a $400 million contract to build a new wall down in Yuma.
Way to go, Tommy.
Tommy Fisher's the man. Okay, I want to go to Raheem Kassam. My wingman Jason Miller's on assignment today. Raheem, the Minority Report.
So last night, the House Intelligence Committee's minority, i.e. the Republicans on that committee, published a report. Devin Nunes, Jim Jordan, Michael McCall, all together publishing this 120 pages, including a pretty lengthy executive summary into what we've seen, I think a 5-page executive summary, into what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 weeks, the impeachment inquiry, laying out every single allegation that has been leveled at the president by Adam Schiff, by any of the witnesses, and even people from outside, such as Nancy Pelosi. They go through it and make a series of findings that pertain to, I think, a lot of it, what we've been saying and laying out here on War Room Impeachment over the past couple of weeks. The long-standing skepticism of foreign aid that President Trump has had, the indisputable evidence that even people in Ukraine, even senior government officials, even members of parliament in Ukraine, think that Burisma and the Biden involvement in Burisma needs to be investigated. This goes on and on in a very comprehensive and very easy to read fashion. We have a summary of it up on warroom.org. And going through the report, it's actually very interesting. We went through this last night, Steve. It's interesting how laser-like and how focused some of the parts of this are, to the point where this has now been out for over 12 hours. The CNNs of the world, New York Times of the world, they've had things up over the course of this morning that say Republicans are mindlessly defending President Trump, but they haven't actually managed to pick anything out of this.
That's a tell.
That is false.
Right.
They have not, in journalism we have this word fisking. They have not fisked this report. They have not gone through line by line and said where any of this is false. And interestingly about this report also, there's no selling anyone up the river. There are no fall guys here. The Republicans aren't pointing at anybody. A lot of people thought Rudy Giuliani might be the fall guy in this report. Nobody's getting the blame here. It's very clear when you read this, and if the American public are allowed to get a good summary of this, and if they want to read it themselves, I encourage it. It's not too difficult. It's not a difficult read at all. It's written for everyman reader. They will see line by line how the whole process is a stitch
Okay, the
up.
whole concept of the show, we're on 7 days a week, live nationwide from 9 on cable and radio, and the internet from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., 7 days a week, and we're going to keep the show going until the day after. We'll do a summary show that Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States, is acquitted. This is a historic process. That's what we felt it had to be covered. We get all the information. Warroom.org is up to get all the information. We've got this is the short segment. We've got to take a quick break, but I want to go to the Congressman. Are you happy with and proud of the Minority Report and what the Republicans have done as far as putting the case forward for the president?
I am. I saw nothing wrong with it. I agreed with it. It was 123 pages, so I didn't read all of it. But what they talked about was the process, the evidence, and the highly suspect nature of and motivation of the players involved here.
Do you think this tees up for the Senate trial? It almost supposes that they understand that Democrats are in a process that they're going to vote at some date certain on they're going to bring a couple articles of impeachment. You think this is a strategic document?
Well, it is. I mean, it's again emphasizing that this is all about hearsay. It is talking about the antipathy for the president, which again is the motive, primarily because they know they are very unlikely to win. I mean, look at their candidates, for crying out loud. Elizabeth Warren wants to ban fracking, and that'll only cost 400,000
Congressman, this
jobs.
is what you were saying, right? We were talking about this in the break. It's what you were saying about how these bureaucrats wanted them to be the people who are doing these deals in Ukraine, not the president talking to the president of Ukraine. That's what the antipathy is about.
It
was
made
like their
the diplomats uncomfortable. The diplomats were very uncomfortable because some of the out-of-the-box way of handling it, which was president to president.
Okay, we're capitalists here. We got to take a short break to sell some ads and pay for everything. We're going to take a short commercial break here on War Room Impeachment. When we return, we're going to drill down this topic, the administrative state, and also the opportunity cost of this constitutional crisis. We'll return in a second on War Room Impeachment.
Bannon, Miller, Kassam. War Room Impeachment.
on the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Welcome back to episode 56, War Room Impeachment. Stephen K. Bannon, Raheem Kassam, Jason Miller's on assignment. 3 December, year of our Lord 2019, from the historic Breitbart Embassy. On the John Fredericks Radio Network, the Salem Radio Network, America's Voice.news, and now on cable TV on Newsmax. Chris Ruddy's Newsmax, the fastest growing cable news operation in the country. John Moran, head of Moran Logistics, chairman of one of the side deals he's got, the chairman of Volunteers Philanthropic, the chairman of the We Build the Wall construction committee that constructed the finest 1 mile of wall that we've built, with Tommy Fisher, just got awarded a $400 million contract last night. They had a full meltdown from the Washington Post, not one but two stories. They had a full meltdown because of and they listed the team of bandits. It was Eric Prince, Chris Kobach, John Moran, Steve Bannon, Tom Tancredo. I mean, it was murderer's row. Okay, I want to go. Got Congressman Dan Muser, who's got Barletta's old seat, one of the great MAGA congressmen. Okay, Raheem, the Minority Report. Where are we?
Yeah, just as a point of breaking news right now, Steve, Emmanuel Macron and President Trump are meeting right now in London. Obviously, President Trump opening a front on Emmanuel Macron this morning about Macron's previous NATO is brain-dead comments, and Trump doing somewhat of a victory lap with the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg about how much money Trump has managed to raise in terms of burden sharing in that alliance. Some very strange scenes out of London right now on the television.
My phone's blowing up, so he must be doing something with Macron, right?
Well, actually,
it keeps calling him Emmanuel right, instead of President Macron.
A little bit of a Love Actually moment with Emmanuel Macron standing up to President Trump there about the comments on NATO. But you've also got a translator, I think it's must be a French translator, speaking in the president's other ear at the moment. Makes for some very odd television, and I'm sure President Trump doesn't exactly enjoy having two voices in both ears at the same time. But that's what's happening in London, and it really epitomizes the distinction between what's going on here in Washington, D.C. and what President Trump is doing around the world. I want to bring it back to this 123-page minority report that came out yesterday. We're still obviously awaiting the Democrats' report into this, but there are key findings in here that I think we've spoken about before here on the show, but they do it so well in the executive summary of this report and deep down when you dive in to the detail about things like the whistleblower's communications with Adam Schiff's misrepresentation of these things, the attempt to censure him. It really shows a pattern of behavior by the Democrats that perhaps maybe not unconstitutional, or maybe they're verging on unconstitutional, but they're certainly immoral, they're certainly unfair, they're certainly unjust. And these are the things that the American public are reacting to in these town halls that we're seeing over the past week or two. They're going out there, they're telling the Democrats, especially in those 31 districts that are swing districts, that are prime targets for the Republicans in the next election, that, hey, we elected you to get on with several things and you're not getting on with them. I want to bring it back to the executive summary. They're trying to impeach President Trump because some unelected bureaucrats chafed at an elected president's outside the Beltway approach to diplomacy.
I want to go to the congressman first. Isn't that one of the things that this report shows the Republicans laid out? It's the pattern of behavior, not just of the Democrats, but of this unelected bureaucracy, the interagency consensus. How does that sit with people in Pennsylvania?
Well, they believe in the idea of the deep state because they see it in its workings. I mean, they see these diplomats, for instance, during the testimony, their feelings were hurt, and the president was doing things in a more direct, more effective manner. They really maintain a socialist outlook that the government is right and the private sector kind of is there to serve them. And that goes for Congress as well. There's very much of a socialist agenda, and I know we're going to get that, all the opportunity that's been lost here. But as I said during the break, I mean, they're caving to the left side of the party, and as I said, the left wing's becoming the whole bird. Better said, the ass end's becoming the whole donkey.
You're right. Is it the deep state or the administrative state? The administrative state here is up in your grill, and I know it's a huge concern of yours as a businessman.
Yeah, I think it's the administrative state. And Dan, I think you're right that they're feeling it, not only seeing it, they're feeling it. So, and I think if you could also tie it all back into what happened in Brexit, for instance, too. The people in England, they kept saying to themselves, we're electing these officials, they're not doing our work, but in reality, the bureaucrats in Brussels are running the show. And if you think about Trump woke up the American people to the same fact here in our country. The American people felt they knew there was a problem. They couldn't understand why they kept electing officials and sending them to Washington, but yet their problems weren't being solved. They were only being compounded.
Talk about solved. This firestorm of a constitutional crisis we have, quickly, opportunity cost for the people in Pennsylvania. While Nancy Pelosi is driving a constitutional crisis over the Christmas holidays, what's the opportunity cost?
Look, we should be talking about winning. Our country is doing very well, very much thanks to the president and last year's Congress. We've got tax relief, we've got regulatory reform, we've got energy independence, we've got trade deals coming, but we could do a lot more and we must do more. USMCA, perfect example, is being held up for nothing more than political reasons. It would pass. Nancy Pelosi
That's a pretty tough charge. You're saying that Nancy Pelosi is holding this up purely for politics against the president.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt in your mind.
Absolutely no doubt in my mind. I know of at least 24 Democrats that would vote for it tomorrow, so it would certainly pass, and there is time for it, but instead it's being absolutely wasted.
How big is USMCA in Pennsylvania? How big a deal is it?
It's huge. I mean, if you think about Pennsylvania, it was an industrial state, and Ross Perot said it very well back in '92 that NAFTA was going to be the largest sucking sound you ever heard, and it turned out that way. We lost 5 million jobs in our manufacturing sector in this country.
Is this what Nancy Pelosi doesn't get, is that USMCA sets Canada, Mexico, and the United States as a geostrategic manufacturing base against East Asia and China?
She doesn't care. She doesn't want to see the president sitting at a desk signing it and having the economy even get better.
Congressman, it's a pretty tough charge.
It's my absolute observation. There were other bills done the same way. A poison pill, literally, figuratively, was put into the prescription drug bill. That could have passed. We could have had lower prescription drug costs today if they wanted to do what was right for our country. They put that behind hurting the president.
Their hatred of Donald Trump, the way he triggers them, overrides, you think, what they want to do for the good of the nation?
Oh, absolutely.
Again, I'm an objective guy. I mean, I was in the private sector for 25 years. I did serve on the state side. That's the observation that I have. It's irrational that these very positive bills should not be brought to the floor.
This is the split screen president. Okay, another short commercial break. We'll return. John Moran, Congressman Dan Muser, Raheem Kassam in a moment on War Room, impeachment.
War Room, impeachment. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back to War Room Impeachment, episode 56 from the Breitbart Embassy, here with John Moran, Congressman Dan Muser from Pennsylvania. Real quickly, Raheem, are we having a throwdown with the President of the United States in Emmanuel Macron?
We have a rumble in London at the moment between Emmanuel Macron and President Trump, sitting there, and they've been sitting there together for a long time, disagreeing about each other's statements on NATO. It appears that they disagree with each other on the very purpose of NATO. Emmanuel Macron saying it's more than just how much money you put into it, and President Trump saying, well, at least I'm the one who got people to put money into it, and that's still going on right now. We're going to be monitoring it. Live updates on warroom.org.
So the mainstream media, I'm sure, will be melting down, but this is the reason for the Trump presidency. Do something different. John, I'm going to finish up real quickly. Yes. The opportunity cost, not just to Pennsylvania, but to the nation about this constitutional crisis, which is sucking all the oxygen out of Washington, D.C.
Absolutely. So, we're sitting here with a new trade agreement that is pending, that is not being passed by Pelosi and her gang. It's costing this country about $68 billion in direct economic benefit, tens of thousands of Americans that would be subject to better jobs and living standard being all held up. And, in the middle of all of this, we're trying to impeach a president when we're in an economic war with China and many other direct competitors in the world.
You think that shows the world in this tough situation that we're in, and particularly in China? You think it shows the world American weakness, not American strength?
Absolutely, to a degree, because we should be supporting our president. We should be, building him up instead of trying to tear him down. The president is doing a wonderful job for our country. He's out there fighting every day. He's had many victories. He's taken on forces that are dead
big problems
every day trying to hurt him.
Okay, in summary, how do you, the Minority Report, and how do we go forward here as a Republican Party in supporting the president?
Well, I appreciate this very much because the people need to know. I'm here offering my observations, my objective outlook on the state of affairs and what's happening day by day here in Washington. It's not meant to do anything else but inform the people, because this is the United States and the people are still in charge. This is the main reason that we need to win.
Are we in charge? Aren't they trying to aren't they trying to overturn the 2016 election? Are we in charge?
By all means, they are, but it's not going to happen. They're going
Why
to
do you
fail.
say that? They're going to impeach him. They're going to actually bring 2 articles of impeachment.
Well, they're looking to even broaden the impeachment accusations, and
three,
not bring the
bribery.
Mueller report, right,
Yes.
and obstruction and all that. If the House does pass it, which it very well might, it won't. It doesn't have a chance in hell, as senators have said, of passing the Senate, because there is no
He
evidence.
will not be convicted.
He will not. He will not be convicted.
He will be
And
acquitted in the Senate.
He will be acquitted, and with an election and primaries less than 60 days away, and an election 11 months away, the people should determine who our next president is going to be, and we got to start talking about winning. Look, we've got some winners on the Republican side: Kevin McCarthy, Steve Scalise. They're laying out a plan for the future, and they will work cooperatively with this president, and we will take care of business. And Pennsylvania will be the new Texas, and many states.
The
will,
Saudi Arabia
do
of
well.
natural gas. John
That's
Moran
right.
from Moran Logistics, Congressman Dan Muser from Pennsylvania 9. This is Stephen K. Bannon, Raheem Kassam. War Room Impeachment. We'll be back tomorrow live at 9 a.m. for the round 2 of the Nadler. Jerry Nadler takes over tomorrow. See you tomorrow.